Your mental shield is strong like a 7. The stronger the intrusion, the stronger your headache will be. It's not a trained type of mental shield. It's just reflexive. What's yours? Darkspeed wasn't holding his head anymore. Mine was an 8, I think. That's how I was able to get past your shield and read your mind. Can you add him to the party line? Bileforce asked. Coach Spurs called the students competing to the front. Midas quickly left his seat to be up by the coach. Yeah, but it would hurt him like that again. He doesn't know how to lower his shield. I'd have to punch through all over again, Virtuoso said. Hey, don't punch anything through again, Darkspeed said. Quiet, they're starting again, she said. Darkspeed, front and center, Coach Spurs called out. Darkspeed blinked in front of the coach. Yes, Coach Spurs, what can I do for you? Go around back next to the dugout and help Bobby with what he needs done. Darkspeed disappeared. Coach Spurs then told Sniper to stand by him. Everyone else had to go stand behind the bleachers. Once Sniper was the only one next to the pit, Coach had her turn around back to the pit. Darkspeed moved 144 targets out on the pit floor in scant seconds. Coach Spurs then looked to Sniper. Once you hear the horn, you are to turn around and destroy all the targets as fast as possible. The horn blew. Sniper turned around and was airborne. She fired and destroyed the targets one by one, never missing, just under 8 seconds to destroy all of them. That wasn't that good. This is a test of area of effect. She was just quick on the single shot, Virtuoso thought to the others. Are they looking for the shot to be as fast as they did for a single target? She thought. Exactly. I think Midas may do well on this one too. Ranger followed with a great attack on new targets supplied by Darkspeed. His time was a fraction of a second and he destroyed them all. Ion followed with an intense show of lightning. Only his lightning looped around to destroy them all. Hollow used her fire to melt the targets with a wide flame projected from her hands. Saber, like Sniper, had to strike the targets one at a time. Chain also did one at a time. Frost froze the entire area the same way Isotope melted the area. Flare followed suit and destroyed all of them at once with super heat. Shockwave and Quake used their power for a devastating attack on the whole pit. Midas stood at the ready with his back to the pit. His mind listened to his coach when he said, "Destroy all the targets as quickly as possible." He knew what he was going to do. Coach Spurs blew the horn, and Midas reached one hand for the ground as fast as his near-miss reflexes would take him. His hand touched the ground, and his power fired off. He didn't even turn around. He just destroyed the pit and everything in it. Whoa! Tone it down a notch, Coach Spurs said. The pit Midas had worked so hard on was now a giant bowl of sand. The students sitting in the stands laughed at the overpowered display of destruction. Midas looked back pleased at his aim with not looking. How long will it take you to put it back the way it was? Coach Spurs asked Midas. Less than a minute. I know how to do it now, and I know what the finished product should be. Get started. Midas placed a hand on the ground and the pit turned into super steel. The steel quickly shaped back into the pit. The cubes that made up the steps formed and separated into detached cubes. Midas reached into his pocket for limestone chips and remade the floor. It was the same as before, with no targets or remains of targets. It only took a half a minute to do it all. Midas then turned to take his place next to the other students. Now the students clapped for him and his creation. Coach Spurs looked over his clipboard and his notes. Sniper, Saber, and Shane, take seats in the stands. You're done with this portion of the competition. The 3 competitors were not happy being told to sit down, but they did. Midas and the others then started to repeat the process with different targets and a force field protecting them. Ranger, Isotope, and Quake all scored a 9. Midas again was a 10+. After another pat on the back by the coach, Midas and the others were back on the firing range for the accuracy test. Once everyone was seated, the coach showed the target off in the distance. A golf ball-sized target on a cone, 1,500 feet away. Coach Spurs went on to explain a secondary target behind the first. It was slightly larger and had a hole in the middle. If anyone hit the secondary target, they were disqualified. Only a clean shot that only destroyed the target would count. Sniper was able to get the target 10 out of 10 tries. Ranger only did half as good. Ion destroyed the target behind with excess energy from his lightning bolts. Hollow fried both targets. Saber did just as good as Sniper by shrinking the size of his cutting force to only cut the target. Chain could not extend his chain far enough to reach the target. Frost shattered both targets. Isotope melted both targets and damaged the grounds nearby. Flare, Shockwave, and Quake were also unable to strike the smaller target only. Midas was the last up. He remembered how he could affect the pit wall, but not the pipe next to it. His mind was racing. Could he have affected the pipe without affecting the pit? Could he use something to transmit his touch without affecting it? The others took their time for their shot. He could too. Midas touched the ground and felt the material from him to the target. He concentrated on letting the things in the way remain and only the target changing. He focused for a moment longer and added force to his imagination. The target changed to sand and fell onto the cone. Coach Spurs was looking through a pair of binoculars to see if he succeeded or not. He used his earpiece to contact the dugout before he said congratulations to Midas. The targets continued to get smaller and farther away. Finally, there was announced a three-way tie between Sniper, Saber, and Midas. The last event was now up, the Rate of Fire Challenge. A machine was to fire 200 small steel targets across the field 100 feet from them. The targets had to be destroyed before reaching the ground. Ion and Ranger were the only ones to get a perfect score. Saber and Sniper were third and fourth. Midas was unhappy with his performance. He controlled the ground under the flying balls to catch and crush the targets. It worked okay for one or two, but he couldn't move his creation as fast as lightning or other energy-based powers. All the students were called to the bleachers by the pit for results, as Coach Spurs went over the results. No one won all 4 events, so points in each event are weighed by placement. Midas has the most points and is first in the firing range challenge. Virtuoso, She, and Bioforce were sitting near Midas and shook him by the shoulders. Midas couldn't believe he beat out powerful leaders and anchors like Ranger and Ion. Get to dinner and remember, Track 2s, you have secrets training after dinner, Coach Spurs said. As they were getting up from their seats, Olympian came over to congratulate Midas on his victory. You did very well for a red shirt that wasn't going to try. You know, some of us are red shirts just because we don't like getting punched in the face, Midas said, trying to be funny. Olympian gave his big smile and joined his fellow hitters for the walk to the hotel. Ranger and Ion also congratulated Midas on a job well done. Darkspeed said goodbye and blinked back to the hotel. Everyone knew Midas from checking in, and most of them had something nice to say to him on the way back to the hotel. During dinner, She and Bioforce joined Midas and Virtuoso. Virtuoso finally broke down and told She about the spreadsheet that she and Midas had started on the other students. You have been using your powers to spy on your fellow students? She looked at her with a blank stare. I was all wrong about you. You should be first brain. For cheating? Bioforce said. Hey, Virtuoso said. No, for gathering intelligence that will help her and the team she'll be on. That is the role of a brain that can read minds. Get the edge proactively. Don't wait until someone tells you to do something, She said. What about IQ? I'm pretty sure he can figure out how to disarm a nuke with a drinking straw, Midas said. Maybe, but the big question is, are you going to share your intel? She said. Tell you what, if you and Bioforce add everything you can to the sheet, we'll share, Virtuoso said. It'll have to be after dinner. You guys need to get to secrets training, Midas said. Hey, Brain, what guys are you talking to? Bioforce asked. Sorry, ladies. Midas sat and had dessert after the girls had gone. His fellow redshirts called him to the game room after dinner. Jack complimented him on his showing in the firing range challenge. The others also told him he did his fellow redshirts proud. For the next few hours, he was a redshirt playing video games again. After the girls were done with secrets training, they found Midas. Together, they started to go over the sheet. Most everything was a rehash for Midas and Virtuoso. She had insight on what still competitors and which ones still needed to grow. Bioforce would have to feel someone use their power or touch them to get a read on what they were and what they could do. Midas was the one who told them to get some sleep. He knew that K-Tag was tomorrow, and against the likes of supers that were there for this game, he knew it was going to be brutal.